time, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for February 28th. We don't have a clerk, so roll call. All members are present, and council members are present with the mayor and the finance director, except for Mrs. Labby, who I'm sure will be here shortly. Do we have any audience participation?
There is none.
Okay, hearing none, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from the January 24th meeting?
Make a motion to approve the January 24th meeting minutes as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Nothing.
Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the 2023 permanent appropriations. Keith Folks is up first.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Mr.
Keith.
President, Mayor, members.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Keith.
See you
Good
this
evening.
So, the Building Department 2023 appropriations. As you can see here, there's an outline of the last few years of budget expenses, and we've increased up to the current $573,645. We've been increasing annually about 8 to 9%, somewhere around there, and I think we've been consistent with that. This year, as far as our capital budget, we were looking or discussing a vehicle. I think we've got some prospective plan to get something through an OPEC grant or a shared type of vehicle that we could use. We have a couple vehicles currently that are 2008 Fords that are probably close to the end of their useful life.
And it was recommended by Fred to replace this vehicle. It's just we want to make sure the vehicle gets as much use as possible, so it might be a shared thing between a couple departments, and being able to use that NOPEC grant. We've done that in the past and used the NOPEC money to buy a hybrid vehicle.
Yes,
I
we
believe
have.
one of those might actually still be in the building department.
Building department
the last
has
time.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, forever.
So
Yeah,
it's-
we actually have two, I think, that are
yeah.
Okay.
being used, so.
573 includes the
No, the vehicle is in the capital
That's the
improvement fund.
total.
Oh,
Yeah, that's just his operating budget out of the general fund.
okay.
Yeah, and part of that operating budget includes, we had previously had a part-time administrative assistant, which we now have full-time. We've had some personnel changes over the last year with the retirement and then replacement of that with this additional staffing for administrative assistant, which is Danielle Waits. She began her tenure on January 2nd, which thank you for the approval of allowing us to hire her. She's demonstrated exemplary service thus far. That's primarily it. I think if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I do not. It looks pretty straightforward, and I mean, we've already reviewed your budget from last year, and so I have no issues with the 2023, so.
Okay.
Are there any other questions on the board? Any council members have questions? Okay. Keith, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Next on the agenda is Rebecca Ziegler to discuss the Economic Development and Planning Department.
Right, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Rebecca.
So, our big expenses this year, I'm just going to point you through. The planning budget is very small, no changes as compared to last year. On the economic development budget, the big things that you will see are Larry's retirement pension payout, the zoning code rewrite, which you've all been very much aware of, that money was allocated for that project. And then we have the compensation for the top company payouts. So for CRA, we do have 6 total CRAs. 2 are falling off this year, 1 falls off next year. And then for top, we have 9 total agreements right now. 3 are falling off, this is their last year, and then 2 are falling off next year. So kind
So
of
Rebecca,
slowly.
we have a new member here. Can we just go over what a
Yeah.
CRA and a top agreement
Yeah,
is?
we have a community,
I was just about to ask myself.
so, okay,
actually. I
great.
don't know.
So sorry. Yeah, I should have.
I'll let her tell you.
Yeah.
An
I
overview.
know,
So
but
there's
I
a
can
community
tell you.
reinvestment area, essentially a community reinvestment area. Essentially, all of our commercial zones are in part of that. It's not just a specific part of the city. And inside of those areas, if different businesses meet different thresholds, there's financial incentives that we can offer them. There's an abatement, a CRA abatement, and then we also have our Twinsburg occupancy program. It's our top program. That's another financial incentive. So it just depends on wages, what they're bringing to the table, how many jobs. I could go into it in much more detail, but we do have 2 incentive programs essentially that we can help woo businesses. And those contracts can go from 3 years up to 12 or 13 years are some of the agreements I'm seeing with Larry. So when I say they're falling off, it means they're coming to the end of their agreement. They've fulfilled it or not fulfilled it. Some of them do get terminated because they just haven't met wage requirements. And all of those agreements, those monitoring letters went out about a month ago. They all are due back on Monday. And then our Turk committee meets and they review those agreements and they just make sure that they're meeting their side of the agreement. And then we either continue it or we take a deeper look.
So Turk means Twinsburg Incentive Review Committee. So if you said you were going to do X number of employees and add additional payroll, we check it with the county and the school system and the city, and then we can decide whether to warn you or
continue the
typically when they're going well, we're happy. Some of them have been fantastically significant revenue brought in. So CRA is if you're going to build a building and you want a tax abatement, and Cornerstone's capped at 50. I mean, they're full now, but that was a deal that we put together. But we have a lot of CRA agreements with Capstone companies still.
Do we cap the number of companies that
No,
can, so
individual basis.
Yep, exactly.
So a top program is if we have an existing building and you want to come in or stay and are going to move and bringing in a new revenue, it's the minimum is 50 employees. Is it 50 employees?
It's I believe they switched it
Or it's
because
$500,000 in payroll.
Exactly, it's more
Excuse me,
payroll.
it's a 5. I knew there was a 5 in there somewhere. But so if and then you have to talk about what you're bringing here now, and even is okay, but we want you to tell us what you're going to grow. So, and then we review that, and again we reduce the we induce the rebates for people who are not meeting their commitments. We've canceled, terminated them, and that meeting is going to be held in a couple weeks. I think the 15th.
and then they cross-reference with Rita. So Sarah provided that data because what they report, we just need to double check that is accurate.
The 14th.
That is what's going in, but yes, correct. The meeting is coming up. So
I have a question. Bill.
Sure.
What company brings in the most of the largest revenue in the
And I
city?
think I'm allowed to tell you that. Sarah would answer that.
Yeah, so the top 10 employers, we reported out on our financial statements, so I can go look and pull the 2021, but the actual numbers are confidential data because it's their taxes. So, but I can send you the listing of the top 10
Okay.
that we report each year. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But the schools are always in the top 10. If that,
The hospitals.
they're one
in
of
top
the
10.
bigger employers. Yep.
And Pepsi.
Yeah, and the hospitals.
Oh,
Yep.
all right. Are
any
there
other questions?
I have nothing.
Okay, anybody? All right.
Okay.
Rebecca, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next
Thanks,
up,
Rebecca.
we're going to do the service department. Dennis?
Good evening, Council, Mayor,
Good evening.
sir. Let's see, in 2020, what we spent, $5,158,180. You see our 2023 budget is $6,732,430. Sorry about that. The first correction was $5 million. For our budget updates, we're asking for $28,000 additional for training for CDLs. That's sending 3 to 4 additional employees for CDL training. We talked about this at our last meeting. $3,000 additional miscellaneous contractual for the ball field survey. That's for the surveying of our ball fields at Glen Meadow Park. That's going to be for reconstruction. $36,300 additional for operating for our barriers, cones, replacement flags, and our winter projects in our city hall buildings. The $88,500 additional is for repairs and maintenance for streetlights, roof repairs on city hall, ball field reconstruction, and the doors, et cetera, for building repairs.
Can you elaborate on what the ball field reconstruction means?
Yes, ball field reconstruction, what that's going to be is they're going to get the fields back to where they used to be. So right now, we have 4 fields that are just,
Liberty.
say, like 300-foot fields from home plate to the outfield. We're having T-ball kids playing on those fields.
Apologize.
What they want to do is they want to bring those fields back, bring the infield smaller, so the kids are not, outfields are not playing on the infield. Does that make sense? We're bringing in sod, recutting it, replanting, and we're going to shut down a couple fields this year as we're doing the projects. Next year they'll be ready to play. We'll go do the next section of fields. So it's like a 5-year plan.
Can I ask you a question about the sod? In my experience, sod, unless it's constantly watered, does not really take well, and then you just see brown squares, like a brick pattern almost.
Right. This is actually sports side, where it's got the deeper root base, so it digs deeper into the earth, and so when you're running on the field, it doesn't slide out or anything.
And it has a better ability to withstand and grow.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe it's not familiar with commercial type sod. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a professional company we're working with, so they do this all over the place. And, yeah.
Okay.
Dennis, do we water those fields?
We're going to once these are all completed. Yes.
Okay, but and out at Liberty, do we have a sprinkler system for the soccer fields and the baseball fields, or just the baseball?
We have them for the
Just soccer?
baseball fields. They're just out of commission right now. We have a broken line. We're trying to figure
Okay.
out where the
All right.
spot's at.
Thank you.
Okay.
So are there any questions for Dennis about the service? Go ahead,
I do have a quick question.
Jeff.
Yes.
So you said we're taking the fields and we're bringing them in for the little kids?
For everybody. Every field's going to be designated per age group. So one age group, you'll have like your major league. Then you have your minor league, you have your juniors and T-ball. The major league would be approximately, bases are 75 feet. 75 feet from home plate to the base, and then from the base to the the outfield starts is approximately 25, 30 feet.
But we're not building any new fields?
Oh,
We're
no,
just-
no. We're taking care of what we have.
Okay.
They're the
Thanks.
biggest infield
Answered my question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no new fields this year.
I have a question. Let's see, Sharon Brook, we have like a little bathroom facility. Are you going to upgrade that at any time, or do you know where I'm?
On Sharon Brook?
Yes, I think it's on Sharon Brook.
No restrooms on Sharon Brook.
No restrooms on Sharon Brook. I used to live there.
Yeah, but there is one somewhere.
It's not like a Wade's Rainbow Rental or anything.
No, that's right. You can see all kinds of stuff. No, there is a bathroom somewhere. Maybe it's in back of Sharon Brook, but I know the city takes care of it.
I know there's one on East Idlewood, but I'm not aware of one on
Yeah.
Sharon Brook.
I'm not aware
Yeah,
of it.
there's 3 bathrooms right now, East Idlewood, Glen Meadow, and Glen Chamberlain.
I walked it.
So,
While I've got you here, thank you very much for addressing the down sign in Corbett's Farm. I appreciate it.
no
Thank you.
problem.
I would imagine that if the city does take care of that bathroom and you're saying we don't, I would imagine it is in
Bad
much,
shape.
much need of a cleaning.
Now that we know about it, right?
Right. I'm just saying. I wouldn't go in there.
Right.
No.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much.
Well, before you go, I flipped forward to your capital listing. Just if council has any questions, these items were approved by Capital Improvements Board, and you saw the list when they presented to Finance Committee last fall. So thus far, there have not been any changes to the Public Works capital listing, but if you guys had any questions.
Yeah, right? That's
Okay.
Not me, no.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
She just said if we had any questions. I don't have any.
on the capital items.
I'm fine. We've reviewed them already.
Yep.
I mean, we're just getting ready to pass the budget and send it to the county.
Got it.
So
I have one more
I think
question.
they're looking for the bathroom on Sharon Brook.
Oh, yeah. I'm scouring, no pun intended, the
I can
map,
ask Jen. Jen might know.
looking for a restroom on Sharon.
Is it in a park?
So the total increase from last year is a little over $600,000, right? And what you've listed to the right is $150,000. Where's the other $450,000? What are the other major items that make up the other $450,000?
Well, some of it's going to be wage increases because this is the entire budget that's going to handle, I mean, I have it, if you'd like to see it. I can't give
I believe
it
it has to do with the seasonal help as far as our hiring as well. 2 new employees.
Which two numbers are you comparing? I apologize.
I was looking at the 22 budget to the 23 budget.
22 to 23. So part of it is, so in the service department operating budget, one of the biggest items they have is that's where we pay the waste management contract. So that goes up every year. And so that's a significant number. And then
$1,000 a year of an increase.
And then along with the salary and wages. And one thing that we didn't hit on those winter projects, that's part of the increase as well, because the winter projects they have coming up for the 23-24 winter, they have some larger, almost remodel type construction items that they're going to be doing next winter. So that's some of the money as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And
No
Jeff,
problem.
we can get you there's a book.
There's a big
book. That's a different book.
I think he has the little book.
Do you have the
Yeah,
little?
I do have that, yeah.
No worries,
I was
that's why.
just curious since he was here and
Well, there is
the
a,
numbers were there. It was just.
there's also a big book,
Yeah.
which there are 2 of them, which go into the absolute, down to the nitty-gritty explanations and detail of what's changing and what's going on there. So that's a binder, it's about this big, that Sarah takes care of throughout the process of capital improvements. I mean, because the things on this list were discussed last fall,
Yeah.
and were discussed again in the fourth quarter, because we did a temporary budget, and we're just reviewing because now we're going to do a final budget, which is due on the 31st of March.
And
We're doing the readings for it now, I believe.
And something to keep in mind is you're looking at 2 different types of numbers. So you're looking at what was spent last year versus what's budgeted this year. We usually spend around 90% of our budget. So they're not necessarily the most comparable numbers to compare spend to budget.
And because we have encumbrances that we can see, you can see the encumbrances and what
Yep.
flows over on a statement of cash. I have that with me too. I can show it to you.
Okay,
So it's all good.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
All the way
Bill.
around.
Sure, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks.
Okay, Nate?
Good evening, Mayor, Committee, Sarah.
Good evening.
Just wanted to kind of quickly go over, and obviously our 2023 budget is significantly higher compared to the spent for 2022. We have a handful of updates that I'll cover here in a second. The majority of that is increased for a summer intern at wastewater to work to help update our occupancy. I'm actually going to be working with other departments, so that increase, it also includes some of the CBA stuff that just recently passed, I believe on the 14th. Have some additional overtime for the operators specifically that are on swing shifts so that they can attend training that we're going to be having. We just actually had one this past week for some IDDE training, so it allows those guys to go and us to cover the cost with that. We had some additional clothing allowances that went up with the CBA with the Teamsters contract. Another large sum for the update for this year is we're going to be working with engineering to have some increased professional service cost for a trunk line that goes through Tinker's Creek Park that comes directly to the plant. Have some miscellaneous contractual costs that are going to be tied to some capital projects, which I'll touch base in a minute. And then there's, Sarah has this listed with $15,000 each for operating and repair, so it's $30,000 total. One of them is our chemical and polymer costs just keep increasing. They're up from 2021 to 2022. Some of them are all the way 50% higher than where they were
You know, I've done my aspect to reach out to other vendors that we can get the same chemicals with to try to keep the cost to a minimum with it. And in preparation of one project that we started last year, I had a transfer switch that failed, and what this does is if we lose power at the plant, it automatically switches over to the generators. And there is a safety electrical disconnect switch that, to bring this up to code, was something that we added in the appropriation so that we can disconnect that building safely so that our electrician, our maintenance staff can work in that and install that equipment in-house, which I'm pretty proud of. You guys have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, capital-wise, I have some stuff on here this year for I&I improvements, basically to help keep rainwater out of our sanitary system. We had initially put a number in here for the design for the plant updates, but with pursuing the loan, there wouldn't be a cost this year with that associated. I have some flow meters that I want to purchase that would be used by my industrial pretreatment department to monitor our trunk line flows that were coming into the plant. And so that I could also use out in the system to try to combat, actually locate where our highest areas of I&I are into the neighborhoods and work backwards so that we can actually attack those areas first. I have some lab equipment that I need to purchase, water system and an autoclave. The large purchase this year is a new sludge hauling truck. Last year we had spoken the fall about purchasing a new one. I've been working with Fred Bissell, our fleet manager, to start that process of updating quotes and whatnot. I'm going to continue along with the process of our effluent pump replacement, so I'll by the end of this year have 2 out of the 3 replaced with new technology pumps. And with our Vector truck frame repairs, if we can spend $40,000 to repair a crack that's in the frame and make some repairs on the top for the air moving system, and that's going to add an additional 5 to 8 years to the truck life. And I know that's the number I said last year, but the more that we get into this truck, even though that's a small investment, and considering it's a $500,000 minimum purchase for a new vehicle, I hope I can keep telling you guys 5 to 8 years so that after another year passes, it's still that's the game plan. Does anyone have any questions?
So 2024 will be the year that you start the capital improvement over a 3-year span?
So the design aspect that we would get into this year,
okay,
for the 1.3 million, that is actually prolonged. We don't have to make a payment on that for 5 years.
Okay.
And the game plan, I spoke with Sarah this week, and
when you say you don't have to make a payment on that in 5 years, does that mean it's a zero interest deal or we just get a lump sum in 5 years?
It's a zero interest loan for the design portion, and we don't have to start making payments until 5 years. But the plan would be to roll that design loan into the construction loan.
Okay.
When the time comes. So it'll most likely get rolled into that, hopefully before 5 years, because it sounds like maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2020, very beginning of 2025, something like that.
But that fund also has a balance in there that we've been working on building, and hopefully.
If it's you could either use the revenue fund or the sewer fund, but we got money in there.
Yeah, the sewer improvement fund is more for Amy's projects. She uses that for the lines when she does the full depth on her road program. But the sewer revenue is more for the plant operations. And the plan there would be, when that construction loan comes about, how much cash do you want to put down on it? Because in total, it's a $15 million project.
I understand. I'm just saying,
but
sometimes when we get the water line stuff, we get 20 years at zero interest. So you said it's zero interest with a balloon payment at the end.
The design loan is zero interest for those first 5 years, but we have not found any zero interest loan options for the full construction as of yet.
We're still
looking, though.
We're still pushing money out 5 years, and we have it available if we wanted to pay it down or do anything earlier.
Yeah, but the goal with that sewer revenue fund that we've been working on is to have that fund be able to carry the debt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about the sewer treatment plant with Nate?
I have nothing.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Can I ask Dennis just one service question? So, I've used my snow blower 3 times this year. Okay? All right. It's easy, Dennis. It'll be okay. I'll be
I
fine.
didn't use it once this year.
All right. I used my snow blower 3 times this year.
Yes.
In the past, salt was hard to get. I mean, we were trying to bring it in from foreign countries and things.
Actually, Egypt, yes.
Okay, several years ago. I don't have any idea, but I don't know if salt was 60 a ton or 90 a ton. But we used to have like a minimum amount that we were contracted to take. So, can you just give me and the council a brief update of how our salt goes? Because I would think that you're not using as much salt as maybe we thought we were going to use. And are we getting? And how's that going?
Right, so what we did is we have to give an allocation every year, what we think we're going to use. This year we went 5,000 ton. Right now, we're at 3,800 that we've used.
Wow, okay.
We started with an empty dome, which kind of helped us out this year.
Okay.
So that's 1,800 that we already filled up.
Now, you've used 3,800 or you've taken 3,800?
We've taken 3,800 so
How
far
much
this
is
year.
in your dome now?
Right now, we probably have about 600 ton.
Okay.
So we're going to, we'll definitely hit our allocation this year.
All right, so like in March, you're just going to fill up the dome?
We're going to top it off for this year, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What does it cost us for 5,000 tons of salt? Is that just rough? I don't remember what the number was. I can do the math.
So it's 48.33 a ton.
Okay, that's a lot lower than we were paying a few years ago.
When we
So
were shipping it in from Egypt, it was 100 a ton.
I thought we were in the 90s, yeah.
129,
So
if I'm not mistaken.
Was it? Yeah.
It dropped way back.
That's when there was an issue with the salt, the mines up in Lake Erie.
Yeah, I
Is
thought
that
they
what
were
it was?
under Lake Erie.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had a
there was a
breach.
shortage.
Yeah.
Started leaking inside, right.
Margarita salt.
They do.
Okay. Dennis, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I
Sorry about
didn't
the
mean to
3
catch you
times
up.
snowblower thing, but
Pardon me?
sorry about the 3 times with the snowblower.
It's not
I
your
totally
fault.
get it.
It's, hey, I bought new boots and skis this year too, and it wasn't even worth the ride to New York. I mean, so. Thank you. So next on our agenda are a discussion on the 2023 permanent appropriations overview. And for the last time, Sarah Buccigrass will go through the
Let's not think
update
about it just yet.
23 permanent budget updates.
Yes. So,
Day, a sad day.
no. So in your permanent budget books that went out to council inside that legislation, there are a couple pages that show you all of the detailed changes from the temporary budget to the permanent budget. So on the revenue side of things, really the main updates are the county updates their estimates for how much we're going to get on property taxes, as well as how much we're going to get from the local government fund money. So those updates are in there. And then the bigger piece of the puzzle is last year we did not use very much of the ARPA money to support the road program. Just our transfer was a little bit lower than we had expected. So we pay ourselves back for that transfer for covering the road program from the ARPA money. That was one of the uses that we decided on that fund. So this year, the rest of that ARPA money is budgeted to be used to support this year's transfer because Amy has over a $5 million road and infrastructure program this year, as you all remember. So that's just her piece of the puzzle. So we're gonna use up the rest of that ARPA money to pay ourselves back on that road program support. So that's the biggest piece on the change to the revenues. The second biggest piece is our income tax collections last year were way above any projections that I expected to get. We prepared to take the hit from work from home. It did not come. So the revenue update for this year is based off of last year's collections. So you'll see there's a lot more revenue put into the income tax collections because that's what we saw. So as always in
So
finance,
July, we might need to look at that if things are
we will
changing.
keep a very close eye on it, but through January, February, we're still up even over last year. So it's just one of those things that you have to keep a watch on, but we prepared because we didn't know how COVID was going to hit us. We prepared for it being in a negative way, and it didn't turn out that way. So it's good we prepared for it, though. Okay. So any questions on the revenue updates?
Anybody in council? Okay, thank you.
And then
Consensus?
And then on the expense side of things, I don't have the smaller departments come and report at the budget meetings. So council, mayor, law, finance, they all had small tweaks to cover staffing and operational needs. And then over on the IT side, we updated the budget for salary needs, and that red shift payment, it's on the capital improvement board approved list, but the payment is 108 instead of 105. So I just added the money there. That was my mistake. On general.
What's Redshift?
I'm sorry. So we moved from Johnson Controls to Redshift for our access control system. So where you swipe your badge to get in and out of the buildings, and they also do the camera systems in our different buildings, and I think the fire alarms, the fire systems. So we switched from Johnson Controls to Redshift. What was happening with Johnson Controls is we were paying a little over $100,000 a year to rent all of the equipment. With the Redshift contract, we're going to pay $100,000 for 3 years to buy all the equipment, and after that, it's just maintenance and repair. So it was hopefully a good move that the city will see cost savings after it gets paid off next year.
Thank you.
No problem. And then the main things under general government on the expense side of things is this is the time that we make all the adjustments for whatever subsidies we're going to need. So like we already talked about with the road program, we dropped the subsidy a little bit for the golf course because of, if you remember when Brian was here last month, he needed about half the money he thought he'd need for the battery replacement program on the golf carts. So we were able to reduce that subsidy a bit, which was great. And then we actually added a little bit of money to the healthcare budget just because of where we ended up with 22's numbers.
I was not at that meeting when Brian was here. Was that because we did it in the previous year? The batteries?
He was able to get a few more done under warranty, if I remember correctly. He tried to push as many through as he possibly could while the carts were still under warranty. We're out of warranty now, so he got some of them done, and then just the pricing, I think, didn't increase as he thought it might. Because the battery pricing is crazy right now.
Right.
That's one of those areas that for whatever reason.
Thank you.
Yep. So any questions? It's a long list of updates, but mostly they're getting presented. And then next month you'll have police, fire, and engineering / infrastructure for the budget. Okay. So overall, the general fund is up 7.78% from last year's appropriations. So that includes us coming back up to full staff after we had, the reductions during COVID. And then also we've got built-in money to cover the changes to the collective bargaining agreements. But again, the general fund is in the positive in the budget, so that's good. That's what we always like to see. That's the big goal for the year, is to keep that general fund in good shape. And then last, total appropriations are up 10.78% over last year. Again, that's mostly due to we have a very hefty infrastructure and capital program this year. Like I said, just the engineering road portion is up over $5 million. But that was one of our goals that we had talked about, is that we wanted to catch up. If you remember, Amy came last year and said we were on, I think we were pushing up to a 40-year turnover cycle on the roads, and we wanted to get that back down to that 25 to 30-year where we want to be. So I think that we are on a good path to get there.
Well, and we essentially paused a lot of that during COVID,
We
right?
paused a lot during COVID, and that's how we got behind, so now we're catching back up. Okay. And then the only reason that the entirety of the budget is not balanced is because we are using some reserves in some of those funds, especially for the road program. So we build up reserves in the Muni Motor Fund, and then we use them when she has a project that comes up that applies. So that's mostly, and using the ARPA money that we built up last year and the year before. So any questions on the permanent appropriations?
So just to dumb it down for the non-finance guy.
Sure.
Those overages that we're using were built up in previous years so that we could use them this year.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
especially with the road program funds, because sometimes she just doesn't have anything slated for that year that she can use that type of money.
Thank you.
I mean, yes, we're going to use some of our encumbrances, but we have $34 million in unexpended balance right now, and most of it's going to the road program. You know, our general funds, you know, in the first month is scheduled to drop a couple million after it went up 10%. But we'll have to look and see what that is in July and in September when we've taken money in and we've taken money out. So.
Well, and there's heavy encumbrances in January. Everybody puts in their encumbrances, you know, for a good chunk of time. And then as the money comes in, those balance out.
Are there any other questions on the 2023 permanent appropriations? Okay. Then let's go to miscellaneous. Sarah, in the 5 years you've been here, have we raised the sewer bill?
Yes,
Once?
we raised it one time in 2018, and that
Sewer bill.
for 2019, and it was a significant increase. However, it was significant because we had not increased the sewer bills in such a long time. And I believe we are achieving the goal that we set with that increase, which was to build those reserves in that sewer revenue fund so that we can keep the plant
We're still the
in
lowest person
the
in Summit
operations that it
County.
needs to be.
I think maybe we need to look at that with the $15 million of reinvestment we have.
I think we're still one of the lowest in the state.
It
So
was a significant increase, maybe percentage-wise.
percentage-wise, it was a significant increase. in-
Dollar amount, it was almost
Yeah,
insignificant.
it's
It looked large percentage-wise, because it's so low.
Right.
That when you increase it $5, it's a big percentage.
Well, and it hadn't been raised in
Year.
Yeah.
20 years? 50, I mean, it was a long time.
Yeah,
right?
it went from, I think it was
But I think we said-
40-something dollars to $62.50 a quarter.
Quarter.
Whereas a lot of people's sewer bills a month are higher than that. So it's,
45 something.
yeah.
Either way.
As I'm saying, is that might be something we need to review this year or next year and put in place. I know that's never a popular thing.
It was $5 a month.
that last week.
It went up $5 a month.
$5 a month.
You want me to
It
go
was
faster?
45 to 60 a quarter.
It goes up automatically?
Put in.
I agree, Mayor, I agree with you.
I just want to make sure we,
I'm okay.
we remember
Yep.
that.
I remember that.
Yeah, we said that last council meeting too, we were gonna do that.
Yeah, we talked about it
All right,
Talked about last council.
when
meeting.
Nate was here.
I must have just slept through that, I apologize.
Yeah,
I
last
think it was at Public Works. You guys discussed it last time.
Is there any other miscellaneous for Sarah? Okay.
Make her work.
I have one, I mean, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but I have one miscellaneous thing I'd just like to get out of the way right now. I've asked the mayor to put a large picture on that wall of this, of him, have his name at the bottom of the city of Twinsburg, just like our zoning maps are now, so that when we're having meetings in here and we're looking for the bathroom on, I mean, we've done it a couple ways. And let me just say, there used to be a 4-foot by 6-foot frame here that was, at one point it was the zoning map.
The ward map?
Wards, with the wards in it. And then we went to a picture of the city, like a drone or
Aerial
Google
photo.
Earth picture. And so I would like to have, because I think it's worthwhile to have it sitting here when we're having discussions, that somebody can come over and just point and talk about, and it just helps me understand what we're discussing sometimes. So what are your thoughts on what you'd like that to be? You want a Google map of it, or do you want a ward map? You want a zoning map? Because I tell you, we've had ward maps, we've had zoning maps, and then we went with the Google map. But I would like something there that we could use that's just there to use as a reference when some discussions come up.
There's enough space to have multiple maps, really.
I already requested both ward map and the zoning map.
Okay,
I did request that of engineering, so.
okay. And so you want to put both of them up?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
Oh.
what I thought we wanted.
I'm just going to,
For you and I discussed putting an overlay of the wards on the
Okay.
zoning map, and it wasn't,
oh, it's okay.
it didn't look right.
All right.
Because it was covering lines and so on.
Again, I was just asking if there was any feedback of what other people thought.
You know how Atlas is holding the globe? We could have Sam holding Holding a Twinsburg map like this.
I think his name on the planning commission, or on the ward map and the, thing. It's just, and it's standard. I don't think I want to go there, David.
Okay. Listen, you just said, are there any other thoughts?
I said I respectfully disagree.
All right.
Okay, again, I didn't know Sam had gone, or the mayor had gone forward with it, but thank you. So, that's all I have. Is there any other?
That's the right place for it, you think?
Well, we got a lot of white space there, and typically we were,
Well, the only thing I was thinking of, if Mark's videoing this,
you'll never see that
pointing to
wall.
something you'll never know. What the people are pointing at, if you had them back here,
I think it'd be too busy back there.
I'd rather put it back over there, because again, we end up with little circles of people in discussion over there at times.
okay.
So, just
I
saying.
will yield to you on that, just to suggest.
The mayor gets to put it anywhere he wants. It's his call.
I'll put it wherever you request.
I like it, Bill.
I miss it.
I like it. Can you get a red dot that says you are here, right in the middle of the map?
That's the mayor's job. I just want to request things. He makes it happen. So, all right. With nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
All right.